I'm so glad to have all of you here, and I want to start by just thanking you for being here. And I wanted to thank our supporters, and especially our studio and our gallery artists and everyone who's in the show this time around. I do have a list here. There we go. So this is the list of artists that are in this show this time. We've got Frank Menudo, Kathy Bergstrom, Doug Castleman, Georgianne Dumkrieger, Judy English, who is new for the first time, Sue Kuskame, Lynn McCamey, Lois Olson, Vicki Secketts, Richard Stevens, David Wolfram, and Anna Yu. And we're so grateful to all of you. I wanted to thank our board members who are putting in a lot of work. We've done so much over this year of pandemic to make the transition to online shows, online classes, and I wanted to thank Robin Johns in particular, our vice president, who has put in so much work for our gallery shows and getting us online, as well as Dennis Sullivan, who gives so much technical support and graphic design, even from Phoenix, where he has moved during this pandemic. And Sue Kuskame, who's our recording secretary and does so many things around the studio. Linda DeSalle, our treasurer. Wendy Hansen, who has become an expert at applying for grants. And Lynn Lavazari and Terry Harkins. I also wanted to thank Annie Gom, who's our social media coordinator. She's always keeping us in front of the public, and we're so appreciative of that. Thank you to all of our instructors who are hosting just amazing classes, and we'll be talking more about that as we go along. But I wanted to mention Debbie Abshir's class on stress-free watercolor doodling. That's attracted quite a crowd from all over the nation. And it's really fun to be able to gather together on Saturday mornings to do some watercolor doodling. And Debbie's been such a great instructor to teach us all. We've really enjoyed that. I wanted to thank Fran Nichols, who I don't think she's on the call, but she's learning to Zoom in, and we're so excited about that. So I wanted to thank also our associate members their show is coming up next. That'll be our next show. To get started this afternoon, I want to show you briefly the video that will introduce you to our show. So let's.
Welcome to Destination Arts Winter Gallery Show On the Bright Side, featuring renowned artist Frank Menudo. Together with Frank's paintings, this collection showcases 11 of our established gallery artists in a variety of mediums, themes, and scale, many featuring a vivid color palette. On the Bright Side is available to see in person by appointment. Send your requests to our email address noted on our website, localartists@destination-art.net. Be sure to visit our online gallery to view the show from the comfort of your home. On the Bright Side, showing from February through April.
Okay, there's our intro. And now I'd like to introduce Robin Johns.
I just have to get into that jazzy mode. I'm just so jazz hands, and that music just gets me going there every time. Hi, everybody. I wanted to start by saying some additional thank yous for the folks who helped behind the show. There are many people behind the scenes at Destination Art who volunteer their time. First of all, I want to thank Robin Kirk, Carol Sutton, Pat Hirschberg for volunteering their time to help prep the gallery and to do the final touches with name tags, making sure everything is accurate and more. And thank you to Terry Harkins, amazing South Bay realtor, and her husband, Bruce, retired frame store owner, for helping to hang the last several shows. And always diligently working behind the scenes, a big thank you to Dennis Sullivan, who continues to be one of our main creative contributors to our website and all of our online shows. Nothing that happens at Destination Art happens without the volunteers who continued even through the pandemic to contribute and support all of our efforts. And now the inspiration behind the show starts with the paintings. With the addition of Frank Menudo to our gallery artist lineup, the trend seemed to be bright colors. When I visited Frank at his Angels Gate studio to pick up his selections, he handed me his Woman in Repose and he said, "This is my tribute to the fauve artists." And it went from there. Looks like my eyes are lopsided. So, and now to start our artist conversation, which means we're going to invite you all at some point, I turn it over to artist and mentor, Frank Menudo.
Oh, thank you. Thank you guys very much. And thank you for all the hard work, Robin and Margaret, you've done for me and for all of the rest of us. I really do appreciate everything. My whole thing about fauvism started in 1990 when I went to the fauve show of 152 paintings of fauve art. It changed my life. It changed my world because of how they painted. I'd never seen anything like that in person before. And I remember seeing my first Matisse and my first Torrance there. And I love what Torrance said about painting. He says, "I paint with dynamite." And that was that bright, beautiful color that he used. And Matisse was, that's why I use a lot of the dots in my life work. My latest work is because of his love and his fascination with Syrah. And he had a way of using the dash instead of a dot. So I wanted to play with the dots for a while and see what had happened in a fauvish attitude. The thing about fauvism that is the most important to me is these 5 ways of looking at fauvism. And this is Brock. Now you notice it has no depth of field. And this is one of the secrets between fauvism, is there was no depth of field to it. And it's everyday, it's an everyday scene. And they always wanted everyday scene and everyday people that they would run into and they would paint. It was like this personal journey for them. And the personal journey was also the picture, the colors that they picked because of color memory and color thought. You can see that he really felt pastel about this place. It was, you know, warm and cozy, and it was probably the backyard and he's having a cup of coffee or something, looking at it. So, and this is also, he was in the starting phases of it.
This was 1906.
Yeah, and now here's Torrance, the dynamite guy. He said it was painting like dynamite. Now you'll notice that there's no depth of the surface. It's all kind of flat. And what he used is with the colors are when you have blues, purples, and greens, they recede. Yellows, reds, and oranges come forward. And this is one of the basic formulas of fauvism. So anytime that you wanted to push something back on a face or something, you used a deeper, rich color. You'll notice that the bridge would be considered the ambiguity here because it's dark. And then you have the lighter green, but they're showing distance. And then you have that bright sky. So he's moving back and forth through this wonderful thing. And then the simplification of things into its least, so the composition is everything, and it's less sympathetic to the subject matter itself. And this was such an explosion. And when you see these in person, they just knock you out, really. This is one of Duran's. Now, notice how he's pushing with the blues, he's pushing everything back, and then all of a sudden he reverses it where the light kind of comes around everything and gives it depth, even though there is no depth to the painting. They did not want depth. They wanted this emotional feeling. And you can see that he probably did this at night. And that's where you get that reflective light behind the items. And, but you can see him playing with color, playing like that brightness. See the brightness he has in that piece behind the blue vase on the left side. He's pushed that back against that. And then what he's doing is the reverse of it. He's actually pushing the dark on the light, forcing the light back. So he's playing a little game here. They always were experimenting. They were always experimenting. Okay. Kirshner. Now, this is the attitude of that everydayness. This is a girl that he used constantly. And you know, he notice the flatness of the whole thing. There is no depth, but there's only composition. And now the composition things. Now, here's the lightness of the girl and the lightness of that. And the depth that he uses in the blue behind that T-shaped blue is actually pushing that figure forward where nothing else would be pushing that figure forward. So he designs, instead of being all flat color, he would put dark behind the character. And then by using color, no shadow, if they use shadow, they used shadow as a shape, not a shadow. And that's what he's playing with here. And this is one of Kirshner's. This is the German expressionist. And they were all involved stealing from each other. So this is what. Madame Matisse. Now here's where they're starting to play with these colors. Now notice on the light side of her face here, there's a green side and there's a warm side. The warm side, he's pulling forward by look at the blue-green that he's pushed in the background. That blue-green is pushed in the background to force that face forward. And notice when he uses her dress that she's wearing, it's a warm color. Then because of the composition, he forces on the yellow side, or that stripe down her face. It's a yellow-green. And what he's done is he's balancing the color in it. So it's this always searching, always looking. This is one of his first ones. This was actually done off of a photograph. And once again, they felt you could use the photograph, but you had to explode the color off of it. And using this green line down it was so, when he showed it, it was so unpopular. They thought he was totally out of his mind. Anyway, and there I am. What I wanted to do is a combination. I love the twisting, turning of the trees. And
sorry.
Go ahead. Anyway, I wanted to put it all together. This is based on everything that I've been playing with for the last 30 years. And what happens here is, this is my wife's favorite painting. See how I'm using the lights forward, pushing forward with the lights, and then the dark purples and the dark blues, they're receding. So what happens around the figure itself, it's forcing the figure forward, and using the green in the body. Those are the parts that are laying flat. So once again, there is no shadow. It's just push and pull of color.
Thank you, Frank. That was fabulous. I know that, again, you love the fauves, and through your art and through so many of the people who are painting and showing in the gallery right now, I'm turned on and excited again about fauvism.
I love it. Yeah.
What did they call them? They coined a phrase for the fauves during their era.
Wild beast.
Wild.
Thank you.
What fauve means in French.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
What it was really quickly is they had a fauve show at this place, and they had a famous sculpture in the center of it, Dubier. He is surrounded by fauves, wild beasts, and that's where they got the name.
Oh, you wild beast, Frank, you.
Speaking of Kathy Bergstrom, Kathy, would you like to also talk about your palette choices? Because you have some beautiful bright paintings and soft paintings in the show.
Well, on this same theme of fauvism, if you'll notice, if you go back to Frank's nude, I don't set out with a complete color theory in mind. I have a subject that I want to create from some abstract, whether it's in my head or on a photograph. And I start out with sometimes a neutral background, sometimes a red background, and one of my favorites is a gold sort of leaf background. And I go from there. But the neat thing about brightness in art, and what Frank has done so beautifully in that nude, is what's called halation, where you take a primary color and its two complements and you lay them side by side, and chemically they affect your eye, how you see things. He's done it there in the spine of the nude, not in the spine, well, there too, but where the body meets the blue blanket is blue and its color complement orange. Then you have over here green against yellow. And then let's see, you got red against green, yellow against purple. All of those just vibrate without even trying. And that's really the beauty of playing with color in the Fauvist tradition. And so you can take it to any kind of art. If you want to go bright with color, you want to use a pretty heavily saturated color, but you never want to forget Frank's main theme.
Okra.
Is value.
Okra.
You have the most bright colors in the world, and if they were all in the same value system and you looked through a cheat sheet, they'd all be gray, and you get that sense from them. It wouldn't be exciting. It would be boring, even though you're looking at primary color.
Okay.
Dave, you're out there. Do you want to talk a little bit about your color choices as well?
Yes. Let's see. Well, one of the comments I always get when people look at how well I've captured the light, and I think, as artists, that's really what we try and do. We don't paint things, but we try and capture the effect of light on things. And for a long time, I was working with a fairly, I'm a real believer in underpainting, and I was using a fairly monochromatic underpainting, which was just getting the values down, and I would take it from there. And a while back, I took a workshop with Jacob Aguilar, and we were using vermilion and other really bright colors as underpainting tools. And I really had a good time doing that. So I find myself doing that a lot more, where I'll actually paint either complements under the colors I know I'm going to be painting, or just playing with a really hot underpainting and seeing what comes of it. And I think it is, it still ends up being fairly similar to what I did, but just has just a little bit of extra brightness to it.
Wonderful.
Okay. Debbie, do you want to comment? You've been teaching a lot with watercolor doodling about the choice of palettes before you start.
Yeah, it's funny, when I was thinking about color and my choices, I have probably 6 different palettes, because I'm also a plein air painter and I paint in watercolor. So for plein air, for years and years, I've used the ultramarine and cobalt blue and burnt sienna and paint very atmospherically. Teaching this class, we're using 8 pigments, the primaries plus neutral tint and burnt sienna. And, we're painting shapes, mainly shapes to doodle into.
You could see everybody.
And with my abstracts, mentored by Frank Menudo recently, I use a lot of black and very little color. So my use of color has definitely evolved depending on the subject matter.
We would like to open up the conversation to everyone who'd like to share.
I'd like to add a little bit to the color palette that Debbie was talking about.
Great, Catherine.
Well, I started out, when I went back to painting seriously about 30 years ago, I had a lot of instruction with the Impressionist movement, the new plein air painters, and their palettes were quite extensive. 22 colors I counted on one of the palettes. And I've learned through the years that the more you can shorten your palette, the more successful your painting will be. And in the great extreme, and I'm sure all of you know about Anders Zorn's palette for the most exquisite skin tones in the world. And he uses 3 colors, and they're boring colors. They're Mars black, yellow ochre, and cadmium red, medium, and white. And he gets an array, an absolute exquisite rainbow array of colors out of those 3. And actually for myself, since I like to get a little more to the bright side, Mary Wilkerson's palette is one of my favorites, and she uses just the 3 primaries. Anyway, so yeah, Mary Gilkerson's palette is very simple. It's the 3 primaries in cool and the 3 primaries in warm, plus titanium white. And again, you can get a fantastic array of colors. They're more pure. And I want to get back to Dave Wolfram, because I took one of his classes, and I believe it was you, Dave, that told us about how much pure pigment there is in a tube of paint. The more valuable it is, more expensive, but it's heavy. So really quality paint will have a ton of pigment, therefore.
Oh yeah, if you weigh a tube of old Holland paint versus maybe a tube of Grumbacher, the old Holland paint will weigh a lot more because there's a lot more pigment per. I guess there's a measurement they use, but if you looked at a microscopic thing, you would see a lot more pigment and a lot more filler or a lot more binder in the Grumbacher paint.
Wow.
And by weight, you can tell the value and the quality of it, and that amazed me. So if you want to be cheap, you can really buy better paints, but put some kind of an extender in them if you want to, make them go further. But thank you for that, Dave. That was a great, fun little thing to learn. And that made me understand what quality was all about in paint, the pigment actually in it. So thanks.
Sure.
Thanks, Kathy. Is there anyone else who'd like to share about how they choose their palette or don't choose their palette ahead of time?
Richard here. I pretty much don't. I was taught by some very good artists, but Sergei Bongard and Sonny Pichapong, Joe Mendez, and they had a formula. I didn't like it, so I threw that away, and I just do whatever I think, and I don't give too much look at what paints are where. I use them all, and I just create it on my canvas.
Wonderful. Well, I think we're going to move on, unless there's someone who's dying to share what they do.
I am dying. I'm dying to. I love color, and color theory is so exciting to me. I'm Christopher, by the way, and I thought I would just quickly share something I'm up to right now in exploring is these color charts of my palette. This color wheel actually uses my full palette, which each of these little symbols represent the colors I use in pretty much all my paintings. However, when I'm using a limited palette, I just use the cadmium red, alizarin crimson, ultramarine blue, phthalo green, and lemon yellow. But this kind of shows you the range you get with those limited palettes versus the saturation you get when you add a few other colors like quinacridone. You really can't get that high saturated magentas without certain colors like that. Another fun thing is to explore color. I'm in the progress of these ones, but for instance, in some cases, people don't always realize that they can make primary colors. So for instance, this yellow is actually being made from the green and this more orange yellow. And I'm kind of going to do the same thing here, show where I can make, for instance, where is it? Like certain primaries, like this red that came from an orange and quinacridone. But of course, it's a much less saturated yellow. So But anyway, just wanted to share these color charts I'm working on. That's kind of fun.
Well, now that Chris, you kind of jumped in there out of sequence, but I'm glad that you did. We're introduced to here today for the first time. You're meeting for us at Destination Art, Christopher L. Cook, who can also go by Chris. And he's an emerging influencer and internationally collected artist. We're inviting him, and he's going to actually participate with us at Destination Art as a new instructor. We're going to be bringing to you in May and June, Chris L. Cook with his oil painting classes. We'll have one for beginners and one that's going to be called Abstract Realism, I think. And now, Chris, introduce yourself a little bit more.
All right, well, I guess I will just jump in and interrupt this whole thing with a little bit about me. Well, I'm really excited to get to know everybody, and it looks like the show is going really is really awesome. Excited to see everybody's paintings there. Love color theory, as you know, so a show that's highlighting all these bright, vibrant paintings is really awesome. Loved what Frank had to say about the Faubus. I did just love the Faubus myself as well. So a little bit about myself. I am, I've been pretty active with the California Art Club, if people are familiar with that. I lead the mentorship program there. Prior to being the head chair of that program, I, of course, was a beneficiary of the program for a long time as a young artist, and was fortunate to find a number of great mentors in my career who have imparted their wisdom, and that's been my primary education. So I'm all for mentorships and things like that. So I do want to give that a little plug. If you know any young artists who need mentorship, that mentorship program is a great way to connect people through the club. But yes, here at Destination Art, we have the new workshops that I'm excited to bring to you on oil painting. So anybody out there who is already an oil painter who would like to learn some things about color theory and brushwork and values and all those fundamentals, I encourage you to join the workshop. And if you haven't painted in oils, particularly the one in May is going to be a little bit more for beginners. So really those fundamentals. So it'd be a great place to jump in, buy some oil paints and try it out. We'll be doing some still life, I think in May. And then in June, that'll be the more advanced one where I go into the abstract realism. So let me show, I think I'll be able to share my screen and show a little bit of my own work and what kind of stuff we might do in the workshop. So this is me at the Autry Museum. I thought I'd include this photo because it makes me look important. Got a microphone, so that's good. This is a painting of mine off to my right side, everyone else's left, called Silent Messenger, and that was also at the Gene Autry Museum for the gold medal show, which I think, you can see that, really even I do realism painting. However, everything I do starts out with abstract design. The way I think about it is abstract. It's really all about that foundation of composition, of values, and then color theory, and really looking for harmonies throughout the rest of the painting and variety. So this is also Gene Autry. This, now we can see that I like to have fun. That's my wife.
Well, we're looking forward to having fun with you, Chris. So.
Yeah, exactly. See, look, I'm a fun guy. We're going to have a lot of fun in the workshop.
Good.
If you choose to join me. This is the plein air convention in Tucson, when it was in Tucson a few years ago. This is out at Griffith Park. So I'm painting that pine cone I put on the trash can. You can see that. I just decided to do a still life, even though I was out in nature. I don't know why, just felt like it. Here's a little bit of my background doing plein air on a boat. One summer, I took a job with a scuba dive boat. I love to scuba dive. So I worked for a summer in going back and forth between Santa Barbara and the Channel Islands, which was really a lot of fun. I got to paint out at the Channel Islands a lot. This is me leading my class, which unfortunately is not going on right now because of COVID, but I was teaching plein air classes at Leo Carrillo. If anyone's familiar with that beach, great beach because of all these rocks, really great structure for painting. We'll go through, I'll show you a little bit of my work. Here's some examples of what I consider to be abstract realism. These florals here are example of the kind of painting we'll do in the basic course in May. You know, a still life will take you through steps of how I create something like that. Here's some more of my work just so we can see. Just as an exciting side note, I intend in both of these pilot workshops in May and June, I plan to give away whatever painting demonstration I do in that class to somebody in the class. We'll do a little raffle as something to encourage you. If you weren't already itching to get into the class, you could win the demonstration I do in that class just for the price of going to class. And you'll have fun, and you'll have a painting of your own when you're done. So all great reasons why you should join.
All right. Chris.
Okay.
Thank
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Okay.
Let me
Now-
just continue. I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the new technology that we have going on at Destination Art. We're so excited that we're getting ready to introduce all of you, welcome you all back soon. And when the time is right, we'll be having some in-person events. But in the meantime, we've installed a large screen TV, thanks to the donation of Dave Wolfram. What we're going to be using that for is on, when we have artists zoom in from other places, like the workshop we're having in April with Desmond O'Hagan, we can, if you want to be in person at the studio, Desmond will still be in Denver, Colorado, zooming in, but we can watch on the big screen TV and enjoy the camaraderie together. Or you can be in the comfort of your own home and participate from there. So Desmond, would you like to give some explanation of what we're going to be doing with you in April?
Well, thank you for inviting me to this presentation. I'm here to talk a little bit about the workshop that's going to be on April 10th and 11th. It is going to be for oil painters and pastel painters. It's 2 days, obviously, and a big part of this workshop is going to be experimenting. And I'm going to talk about many different subjects. I'll be doing a demo each day. First demo would be in pastels. Second demo will be in oils. And you're welcome to work in either medium or both. And I've had a whole year in perfecting these online workshops for some reason. And this is probably going to be my 7th or 8th workshop online. And so I've really worked on the process of working with participants. The demos are in the morning, and I'll also tie those in with lectures. But a bulk of the workshop is me working individually with each participant. And the way we work that is you actually will be painting and taking. You can take cell phone pictures of the paintings and send them to me as we're online for the workshop, and I will pull those paintings in progress up on some software in Zoom that I can annotate on and be able to talk about composition, color, values, all of those things. And I just will rotate all the way through everyone in the workshop. And it's worked really well with my previous workshops. like to pull up a screen share on what my demos
Oh.
actually look like.
Okay, hold on.
You can see that the demos are very close in, and they, you don't really see my head in most of them because you see that in some of the online demos. But this is very, very close in, and some of the responses that I've gotten in the past is that, it's actually better than in person because you're right there instead of sitting in chairs, far away from the artist painting. And this is just a short clip, so it's kind of in the middle of this demo. But for this painting, this was actually of a scene in Spain, and the Mediterranean, and a combination of brights and darks, muted and more intense colors. And it's a very much a painter's approach to pastels, using broad strokes and very bold and direct approach.
So now I'm,
and that's me talking,
working on some of the bright spots here.
And I also have the palette next to me, so you can see where I'm actually, where I'm grabbing the pastels from. So now do you see this is the actual finished piece?
Beautiful.
Thank you. So it's showing just a combination of techniques in there. And once again, experimenting is a big part of the kind of work I do. And a lot of it is also taking, say if you're working from photographs, and taking those photographs and using them only as a jumping off point, and then really get into manipulating shapes and color and pushing it from there. A good example of that would be, this is a scene in our neighborhood. And what really intrigued me about this scene was the difference in the shadow, the snow and shadow, and the snow and sun in the sunlit areas. So I went from here to that. So really trying to push those colors and make it very spontaneous and bold. And this is actually a former demo.
Okay.
I'll go through some.
I want to just mention while Desmond's showing these pictures that the link to register for Desmond's workshop is up on our website under the classes tab, and to register for Chris's workshops, those will be posted within the next week. So look for those. But of course, Desmond's is coming up in April. So if you want to look for that, our website is destination-art.net, and the classes tab is right on the front page there.
I wanted to put in a plug for Desmond's class because I took 2 workshops from Desmond, and I love his routine. What he does is he does literally, when you're physically there with him, he goes around the room one by one, and he gives you all this input on how to improve your painting. And it sounds, Desmond, that you're gonna do the same thing virtually, which is amazing.
Right. It's worked out really well. There was kind of a little bit of a learning curve in actually how to do this online, but I think I have it down really well now. I've enjoyed it. And in my previous workshops, as in with workshops I do in person, a lot of it is critiquing participants' work as you go through. And of course, throwing a lot of ideas and a lot of information out there, and you take what would work for you and disregard what doesn't work for you. And everybody's able to work on a variety of subjects. My subject matter is pretty vast, I would say. I try to do a lot of things. I tend to get bored very quickly. So I'm always looking for something that's challenging. And I think that's a big part of painting in general, is you want to challenge yourself continuously. And I've been doing this now for almost 34 years.
Yeah, your night scenes always blow me away. How you create the night scenes, Paris at night with the rain. I love the atmospheric things that you create.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I've shown in several galleries and many national, international shows, and it's been a long, strange journey.
And strangely enough, your workshop is called Capturing Light, which Dave Wolfram just talked about, and bright color palettes. So there you go.
Yeah, capturing light's a big part of this. It's very, very important. But yeah, everyone who's welcome. It's for all skill levels, and It'd be an enjoyable time.
We're excited about it, and I'm already enrolled, so hope people will join me in the gallery because we can hopefully Zoom together and paint in the gallery together while we're watching Desmond.
Okay. All right. Are there any more comments or from our artists, our gallery artists? Does anyone else want to say anything about the show before we move on to a couple of our artists who are about to or have just published books?
Richard Stevens. I think Destination Art is really coming to age to do such a show like this, to have so many different artists from the South Bay. And we all have our own look at how to do their art, and having a show. I'm very impressed.
Thank you, Richard.
Ditto.
Vicky, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I just want to say thanks for everyone. And I've enjoyed working in my studio because the show is so bright. I love color and it's just my kind of stuff. So it's been just a pleasure to come into Destination Art so often to see it. And I feel proud to be a part. So
thank you.
Just kudos to everyone. Great job. That's it.
Good. By the way, the gallery is open by appointment. So just send us an email at localartists@destination-art.net and we can accommodate you coming in to view the show in person if you like. But also, of course, it's on the website and you'll see every painting that's in the show on the website with all the information there. So next I wanted to introduce Mike Ishikawa, and of course we had very successful shows, one-person shows, one with Dave Wolfram in December, and then we had Mike Ishikawa in January, and Mike is about to publish a book. Mike, did you want to talk about that a little bit?
Oh, yes, thank you, Margaret. Let's see, the book started years ago. I've been sketching for years as an architect. I'm one of those old school architects where you had to really draw to put down your ideas pre-computers. And so I used to take a class with an architect named Quincy Jones, a very talented architect, well-known postmodernist type of guy. And I used to notice that he would sketch on napkins, on any pieces of paper, just to practice the skill of sketching. And so that really hit me that, this guy is really into his sketching. And so after I graduated school, I started working, and when I had some time, I started doodling and sketching in little sketchbooks. None of those I've saved. They've just kind of hit the trash can. But around 1993, I went on a trip to Thailand. And I said to myself, you know what, I'm going to just start sketching and kind of chronologically just kind of get a book going that shows my sketching. And so I started in 1993 and I started sketching whenever I had a chance. I would sketch whenever I went on vacation, on trips, whatever. And I always carried a sketchbook with me, and I would sketch. And over the years, my sketching has changed. I mean, you started with the basic sketching, which were very elementary, and I got into more complex subjects, architecture and things like that. And over the years, my sketching has evolved where I now use lots of markers, ink pens, different shades of grays for notans. I took a class with Kim Lordier, and she got me into this notan drawing. And so after I took that class, I started interpreting some of that into my sketching. And it was a really, really big turning point for me. And over the years, I've filled 12 sketchbooks of my travels. And so I started teaching some sketching in at Destination Art. And my students would come up to me and say, gee, you know, Mike, I wish I could see your sketches. And so I would bring my sketchbooks with me to the classes and they would thumb through them. And they said, well, why don't you put them in a book so that we can take them with us, you know? And so that idea kind of imprinted in my head that maybe I should do something like that. And over the years, Lynn told me to, why don't you publish a book? That's one of my sketches up on top there. And those pen and pencils are on the right. That's basically what I use. The ones on the lower left side are my sketchbooks that I've filled over the years. And the two diagonal ones are the various sketches that I've done. So Lynn got me started and thinking about it. So in last year in March, I went fishing. I came back and my wife, I walked in the door and my wife, Mickey, said, put your stuff down. You're not going to go anywhere. You're locked down at home. So I said, what's going on? He said, well, you know, this COVID's going crazy and you're going to have to stay home. So I decided to start sketching and drawing. And I thought to myself, I'm going to publish the book. So I started thinking about it. And I talked to Lynn and she said she would edit the book for me. I talked to another friend of mine, Ben, and he got me started on this computer program called Keynote. And so I put the whole book together and it's now at 187 pages. So there's probably roughly 400 sketches in there. And inside the book, I've got stories about where the sketch was drawn, what country it was in, my impressions of the sketch. Also throughout the book, I've got highlights about how to sketch, how to do it, what kind of materials you need, just little tidbits of information.
And so when is it going to be coming out, Mike?
The book is now in the final printing. I'm going to get a copy done by next Monday. I'm going to give it to Lynn and she's going to give it the final edit. And when she does that, hopefully we can go to print.
Good. So we're looking forward to having Mike do another sketching class at Destination Art when we're able to open up again in person. So maybe in the next few months and when his book is available. We're really looking forward to that. Want to thank you very much, Mike, for sharing all that. And we are looking forward to that. And I wanted to give Richard a minute here to talk about the book that he has published of his art. Can you?
There's the book. I don't know how. Can you even see it?
Okay. Yes, we can see it. Good.
Okay.
And so that's going to be available shortly, Richard?
Well, it is available now.
Okay.
Had it out for about 3 months now.
All right. So when we're back in person, we'll look forward to that. Maybe you can have some available at Destination Art.
Of course, I'll have some available at Destination Art. Plus my website.
And your website. Okay.
CanaryRowStudios.com.
CanaryRowStudios.com. Okay. Well, if everyone would go back to gallery view, we wanted to just say a final thank you to everyone. Look forward. If you're not receiving our newsletter, go to the bottom of the homepage on our website and sign up, because there's a lot, as you can tell, there's a lot of new instructors, new things going on, new ways of having classes. And the next show that we'll be having is the associate show coming up in May. Robin, is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, I think that's about it. It's just been a pleasure to see everybody together today. What a nice group to come here and join us for the fun today. and excited about our new instructor. I'm so excited about seeing Desmond, who we've had before, but is always so great and wonderful and informative. And then also just those of you who stop by or want to come see the show, please, I'm available. There's a lot of us who do come in, who brave it and come in, and we'd be happy to show you the show in person. There's nothing like seeing the show in person. So make an appointment if you want to come.
Yep. Any closing remarks from anyone?
Thank you for coming.
Yes,
Thank
you.
you all.
Nice to see you all. Miss you.
Yeah, thanks, Dave.
You too.
Miss everyone too.
Nice to see many of you in person.
Oh, yeah, good seeing you.